Hi, I'm Lou and this is Lily Rowe. Happy Imbolc! Winter is waning, the light is returning and the spring juices are rising. To celebrate the season, we thought we would share a story with you. It's an ancient Greek legend which kind of explains how the Rowan trees came to be. So grab a cuppa and get comfy. Gather good and close, my friend, gather round the fire, for who knows how this tale will end, who knows how to inquire. Long, long ago, when the gods mingled with men, there lived the goddess Hebe. She lived on Mount Olympus with her father Zeus and her mother Hera and all the other gods and goddesses. Hebe was the youngest of the gods and she was very beautiful. And she had a special job to do, which was to serve the ambrosia, the food of the gods that kept them immortal, from a special chalice that she kept safe. She basically was a bit like a goddess waitress with the special ambrosia. And every mealtime she would come along and she would serve them so that they were satisfied. Now this one mealtime, she was going to get the ambrosia ready and she went to look for this golden chalice. And to her alarm, it wasn't there. The shelf was empty where it normally stood. She looked around in a panic trying to find this cup and she couldn't see it. Suddenly, as she looked at the door, she could see a glint of gold just being pulled through by a dark tail. She ran out after the cup, leapt out of the door, and she saw this long, dark, slithering snake which had the cup coiled in its tail and it was slithering down the mountainside. "Stop!" cried Hebe, and the snake stopped and looked at her and hissed, "It's too late, I have the chalice." And with that, the snake turned and started to pulsate. Two protrusions came out of its back and started to flap like big wings. Its body shortened and widened and grew fur suddenly out of it. Its head, two big ears started growing from it, and its nose retracted to be short and stubby with a mouth of snarly kind of sharp teeth. And at the base it had two claws, one of which was holding the chalice. It had turned into a giant bat and it started to flap its wings and take off. Now Hebe saw this and she knew that this creature must be a demon, for she had heard stories about how they could shapeshift. But she was not deterred. She needed that chalice to serve the ambrosia. So she continued to charge after it. "Stop, stop," cried Hebe. And she ran. But the bat was getting higher and higher and higher as it flapped. She was reaching the edge of a cliff. And she took a leap with an outstretched arm to try and grab the chalice. And she thought she was going to get there, but just as she reached out and her fingertips glanced the gold, the bat took another big flap and flew out of reach. Poor Hebe skimmed it with her fingers, and then there was a moment of calm before she realised that she was tumbling down and down and down and down and down to earth. In the distance, she could hear what she thought were cackly kind of laughter as the demon flew away. Luckily, down on Earth, it was still winter time and the world was covered in a thick blanket of snow, which softened her landing as Hebe kind of tumbled down into the snow. She took a moment to get up, brushed herself down and look around. She had forgotten how beautiful it was down here, for it had been a long time since she'd been to Earth. It looked so pretty, all the pure white snow and all the rocks and trees looked like they had been painted with glimmering ice. she took a moment to appreciate the beauty. But then quickly her mind came back to what had happened. Oh no, what can we do? The demon's taken the cup. What are the gods going to do without their ambrosia? What am I going to do without the cup? Where's the demon gone? What am I going to do? And she started to panic. But just then she heard a sound. Whoosh, whoosh. It was coming from the forest. So she walked. Whoosh, whoosh. It definitely was coming from the forest. She kept walking. She was getting closer. It was getting louder. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. She was right under the trees now, and it was very, very loud. And she realised it was the trees making the noise. So she called out to them. Pine trees, tall and strong. Yes, she called out to the Baba. Where were we? Oh, that's right, she's just met the trees. So she realised that it was the trees that were making the sound. And so she called out to them. Pine trees, tall and strong, evergreen needles all year long. Reach out your branches to the sky and catch that demon as he flies by. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh went the trees. And a big, slow, booming voice called down to her. Maiden Hebe, we would like to help you, but we cannot. For it is still winter, and our roots are trapped in the frozen ground. And amongst our evergreen branches, there are creatures sleeping and sheltering from the cold. We cannot abandon them. And Hebe understood, and she walked on. So she continued through the forest, looking for anyone who might help her. After a while, she heard another sound on the wind. And it was coming from the deepest, darkest part of the wood. So she crept forward through the dark trees, and she came to the mouth of a cave that was very, very dark. The sound seemed to echo from that cave. It definitely was coming from there. So she crept as quiet as she could. Quiet, Baba, we're creeping into the cave. Quiet. Right, Baba, should we continue telling them the story? Where were we up to? Oh yes, we got to the cave, didn't we? Yes. So Hebe was creeping as quietly as she could into the mouth of the cave. There was in the corner a big pile of brown, thick fur, which was where the noise was coming from. It was a bear. He was fast asleep. So Hebe called, "Bear, bear, powerful and strong, hibernates all winter long. Awaken now and hunt your prey. The thieving demon went that way." Stretched the bear. He rubbed his eyes. Maiden Hebe, I'd like to help you, but I cannot, for it is not time for me to wake up yet, and without food I have no energy and I have to sleep. And Hebe understood, and she walked on. So she continued walking through the forest. until she came to an open glade that was open without any trees in. It looked very beautiful with all the snow and the glistening ice. And she was very tired by this point, so she sat on a log, a bit like this one that we're sitting on. And sadness overwhelmed her because she still hadn't found anyone to help her. And so she sat there and cried. She cried and cried and cried. And her warm tears trickled down her face and dropped onto the forest floor. That's not crying, Bubba, that's another noise. Her warm tears, they fell onto the forest floor and they melted the snow and fell all the way to the earth. And as she was sitting there crying, to her amazement, she started to hear these little quiet voices that they were chiming. They sounded like the ringing of bells almost. Maiden Hebe, cry your tears, let them help you with your fears. Although your journey remains unknown, always remember that you're not alone. And she looked down onto the snow, and where those patches of tears had fallen, there were spots of green. And as she watched with amazement, these stiff, shiny shoots appeared and unfurled to reveal white, delicate flowers that blew in the wind and tremored. And it was the snowdrops that were singing to her. And Hebe understood, and so she stayed sitting on that log and she continued to cry. Now, back on Mount Olympus, because Hebe had been gone for some time, the gods were all sitting down at their dinner table waiting for the lovely yummy ambrosia to be served, but it did not come. And you know, it'd been quite a while now, and so some of them were getting a bit agitated, you know, they were getting a bit hangry. "Where is Hebe? I'm hungry," shouted Apollo. "Oh, I hope she's okay, and you know, where's the ambrosia? What will happen to us and our immortality?" You know, worried Hera. Yes, they were very worried, Bubba. It's a bit like you when you don't get fed. You're very angry. Is that better in the sling? Okay, we're off again. So where do we get up to? We were up to Mount Olympus, weren't we? And the gods, yes, they were all getting a bit hangry because they hadn't had their ambrosia. So Zeus, being king of the gods, thought, "I'll sort this out. Do not worry, I will investigate." And up he got and he started to search Mount Olympus for Hebe to see what had happened. But he looked high and low, far and wide, and he could not find her. So he thought, "Oh, well, maybe just this once I could serve the ambrosia myself. I'll go look for the chalice." So off he went, and he went to the shelf where the golden cup normally was, and it wasn't there. What had happened? Surely Hebe wouldn't have, you know, stolen the cup and taken it for herself. No, she's a good girl. She wouldn't do anything like that. I wonder what's happened. And so he whistled very loudly, and within moments his pet and protector, Prostatis, a great golden eagle, landed by his side. "Prostasis," he said, "you have the gift of great sight. I need you to go and find the truth for me. I need you to find Hebe and the golden chalice and bring it back to us." "Gah!" agreed Prostasis, and with a couple of flaps with his mighty wings he took off into the sky. Away he soared, and he was very, very fast. He sped down the mountainside, down, down, down to earth and to the snowy land below. Now, being an eagle, he had very, very good eyesight, but the land was all white. It was all covered in snow as far as he could see, and he could see a pretty long way. So how is he going to find Hebe? How's he going to find anything? It all just looked like one big white patch, one sea of white down there. He was a bit worried really, but he kept on flying. He kept on flying. White, more white, white, more white. That's all he could see. He was very close to giving up when all of a sudden, out of the corner of his mighty eyes, he saw what he thought were some specks of green. So he flew closer. Yes, definitely some spots of green down there. I wonder what that is. So he kept flying closer and closer and closer until eventually he came to land in the glade where Hebe was crying on the log, and all the snowdrops, which had grown in number substantially because she'd been crying quite a lot, were there keeping her company. Kia! said Prostatis, and Hebe looked up and a big smile came across her face, and she ran over to him and gave him a hug, for she knew him well and they were playmates. Oh, Prostatis, I'm so glad to see you, said Hebe, and she told him all about what had happened with the demons and the cup, and she tried to get it back and no one would help her, and she told him all of that. And he was like, kia, kia, signalling to get on his back. And off they went. He flapped his great wings and they were up in the air, speeding by. Faster and faster and faster they flew, speeding towards the western horizon, because that is where Hebe last saw the demon kind of going. And there was no one as fast as Prostasis. He whoosh, was like a rocket through the air. And eventually they could see a dark, fluffy shape that's kind of lazily flapping away in the distance. And Hebe recognised it as that great bat that the demon had turned into. That's it, she cried to Prostasis, and Prostasis seemed to find more energy and speed up and go even faster. And they could see this glint of gold in the claws of the bat. He still had the chalice. It was great, they would be able to get it back. But how are they going to get it back? Kia! shouted Prostasis, because he had a plan, and he dropped from the sky like a speeding bullet. Poor Hebe had to hold on really tight to his feathers so that she didn't fall off. He was the bat hadn't even spotted them when suddenly, boosh, the claws of the eagle, bang, locked onto the bat. The bat screeched as they tumbled together down and down and down and down, down from the sky. Now, in all the confusion, Hebe on the back of the eagle could see the cup in the claws of the bat, and she thought she could reach it, so she kind of was reaching for it, creeping forward, reaching out her hands, when all of a sudden the bat noticed and snarled its big sharp teeth and went to bite her. At that moment, Prostasis leapt his neck forward so that it would get in the way in between them, and the bat instead bit down into his warm feathered neck. Kia! shouted Prostasis. He was a bit annoyed now, and he pushed the bat even further and even faster down, down, down into the mountainside. Now, they were getting pretty close to the ground at this point, and the bat looked down and looked scared for the first time. And then, all of a sudden, poof! He seemed to disappear. The claws of the eagle now just gripping onto air, and the chalice was just free-falling down and down and down. So, Prostasis did a bit of a dippy arc, woo, so that Hebe could catch the chalice in midair just before all of them hit the ground. Hebe thought out of the corner of her eye she could see a little black fly buzzing away in a very hurried manner. Perhaps that was the demon, perhaps he got away, but it didn't matter. She had the cup, and that's what mattered, so she could take it back to Mount Olympus. Hurrah! Hurrah, shouted Hebe, we've got it. We can go back. Thank you, Prostasis, thank you so much. We've got it back, and thank you for protecting me. Kia, said Prostasis as he kind of swooped to turn back homewards. There was blood trickling from his wound in his neck, but it wasn't that bad. It was okay, but it was trickling out. And as he flew back home to Mount Olympus, spots of blood dripped down and fell onto the land below. And from these drops of golden eagle blood, the very first rowan trees grew. That is why the leaves of the rowan tree look like big, glorious feathers. The bark has a golden shimmer and the berries are blood red. To this day, rowan trees can grow on craggy mountainsides where other trees dare not grow. That's what gives it its other name of mountain ash. And to this day, it is beloved by the bird people, for they gather in its branches and eat its berries gifted by Brother Eagle. And to this day, it is revered for its protective qualities. It was tradition to carry 2 sticks of rowan in a solar cross bound by red thread to keep you safe. And if you look very carefully on the bottom of the red berries, it has a tiny pentagram, which has been an ancient sacred symbol for protection and for the goddess. If you look on the tree calendar, or Ogham, this time of year is also governed by the rowan tree, and so the festival of Imbolc falls under its watch. At this time of year, the juices are rising and the energies are quickening, ready for spring. So perhaps that's also why it's been given another name called the quickening tree. Do you have a favourite story or way to celebrate this time of year? Do let us know by sharing in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, do give us a like and subscribe to the channel so you can join us in the woods next time. Hopefully we might be able to share some more seasonal stories as the wheel of the year turns. Thanks for watching. Imbolc promises the return of spring. Who knows what this season will bring? Maiden goddess thaws the freeze. Snowdrops, Rowan, to the trees!